All right, we are looking at episode 109 here on the Real Kyper at Noon show on this Wednesday, April 28th. Welcome to the Real Kyper at Noon show. We are live streaming here as we close out the 2021 NHL regular season. For many of these teams, about a half a dozen games to go. We still got some question marks coming down the stretch. Not in the North Division, as the Montreal Canadiens kind of took care of that with their last win over Calgary, but still a lot to talk about here, including, of course, our thumbnail. And we teed this up a little while ago. And half a dozen games to go. Is anything really going to change when it comes to major awards? At least the perception that's out there, and where it's heading, where it's looking like, where the names, all of the names that you expect, the McDavids of the world. But we're going to get into a little bit, and we're going to start it off with the defense and work our way around that. So let's bring in Doug Maclean out of Florida. You know him well. How can you not know him well? Drives us nuts on the show. Mac, before we get into any discussion about who's going to win the Norris Trophy, you got to be ecstatic now that you heard that Turner Sports now is entering the broadcasting world. That gives you a bidding war between ESPN and Turner for your services next season.
I could give a shit who gets the TV rights. To be quite honest. I could care less.
Would you just go with? Can you roll with me a little bit on sometimes?
I've talked to like 5 or 6 TV people in the last 2 days, and everybody's going to work for TNT. Everybody, they're all going. They're all getting jobs there.
Everybody.
And I thought, oh my God, is it ever nice that I don't have to worry about that junk anymore?
No, Mac. Every time you think you're out, they pull you back in, man.
No, it's okay.
Were you? I was surprised, and I'd be interested.
The only way I'm getting in is if Gord Cutler and Scott Moore get a job at TNT.
I would think Turner and ESPN be watching the last little while and go, we got to stay away from that Doug Maclean, man. He's
You're the Charles Barkley of hockey commentary.
We don't need him free riding that attitude on our programs.
Exactly.
Are you not surprised? And it'd be interesting to hear some of the comments from the listeners here that NBC, which Mac I thought did a really terrific job over the last little while. Their set looked fantastic. Watching key games, they weren't disappearing 30 seconds after the game was over. They stuck with it. They showed the game. They showed the league. They showed stars. A ton of respect here. I'm just surprised that they would let it go that easily after a 10-year investment.
Didn't they get rid of? The plans are to get out of NBC Sports Net.
Yeah, there was,
which would put a real. Where would they put the games? That would be the number one challenge, I guess. But I'm sure they have avenues. But yeah, it surprised me a little bit, to be quite honest, that they moved out of it. Obviously, they didn't want to pay, and it's funny. I played golf this morning with a former NFL referee. And he said it again. He said, what is the NHL? They're getting peanuts for these TV deals. Yeah. And I said, well, I don't know. I said, well, they go, NFL cleans up. What do they get? $1 billion, billions. And then
I think NBC's paying Jordan, if I'm not mistaken, maybe, NBC's paying the NFL alone $2 billion a year.
I do know that the NBC has been going through some general restructuring with their content, especially live content, with their streaming platform called Peacock. They recently did a huge deal with the WWE network to broadcast WrestleMania on there instead of the WWE's proprietary app. So all this stuff gets very confusing and stuff like that. I'll get the exact number for you now.
So what does the NHL get, Nick, for their TV deals with everything all in? All in, what do they get?
Well, we believe that ESPN came in a little over $400 million, Mac. The number I heard was 410. Then you factor in the Turner at 2+. So the NHL was coming off a 10-year commitment at $200 million per year.
And now it's 600.
And it's tripled. So
600 plus the Canadian deal, which
the Canadian
is
would work out to roughly 400 US on average, maybe.
So you're $1 billion for the total TV package divided by 31 teams.
Which, again, while we all love our sport, we all love the NHL. If you want to think of it as a top 4 along the side, the NFL, the NBA, Major League Baseball, I think it shows you where the gap is.
So every team gets roughly $30 million from national deals plus their local deal, right?
Yes.
Okay, so my last year in Columbus, which was a peak year for us on TV, including the national deal and the local deal, if I'm not mistaken, we are right around between 7 and 8 million is what we got.
Yeah.
Nothing from NBC because it was just, they had us for nothing. And I think we're getting $1.5 million from Hockey Night in Canada. And then we were getting $4 million from ESPN, I believe, prior to that. So we came in with everything around 8 or 9, between 7 and 9 million. I'm not sure what it was. And now it's 30 plus their local deals. So some teams are doing 40, 50 plus. Like a team like Columbus is probably doing 40 million on TV in revenue.
I think that sounds like a good number, but when I compare it to other leagues, it's loose change in the couch.
Yeah, so for NBC alone, starting in 2023, 10-year deal, $2 billion just from NBC. Most of the other companies are around 2.1, 2.5, and that's CBS, ESPN, Fox, etc.
Yeah.
I do know, I think in the late 80s, Mac, when you compared TV money for the NHL and the NBA, it was rather comparable, I think. Although NBC probably was always ahead of the NHL, but it certainly, the gap wasn't what it is today. So I think, I don't know, for the most part, you would think, Mac, that NHL owners would be happy going from 200 million to 600 million plus.
Oh yeah, for sure they would be.
Over the last 10 years, but it's hard when you watch what's going on in other sports and you're eating dust off of those deals.
So let's say that the average team is getting 40 million. And so 20 million to the players and 20 million to the team, but it all just goes into the regular revenue and it's 50-50 split.
Pretty much.
Yeah.
Pretty much. I think
so. It's a good deal for the players too.
I think they can find you some role down there, Mac. You'll like Atlanta or Bristol, Connecticut. Very close to Florida.
Yeah. I remember I interviewed in Bristol for when Barry Melrose became coach of the Tampa Bay Lightning. I went in and interviewed for Melrose's job at the time. And I was interviewing at Sportsnet at the same time. And Sportsnet came with their offer first, and I jumped at it. And I don't know I forget who got the Melrose job. Was it Barnaby? Maybe Matt Barnaby got it at that time.
Well, Barnaby was certainly yes, ESPN guy.
Yeah. And then Barry Melrose lasted 8 games coaching, and then they always wanted him back. So now is Barry going to be the lead analyst for ESPN?
I would assume he'd have a role there, and
Significant
they
role.
got some great hockey people down there. The only question I ask you is, do you think they make them get a haircut and a new suit?
At least one that fits him.
I'm going to tell him you said that.
Tell Barry that at least he's got to get it tapered if he's going to be on.
Well, exciting time south of the border, at least from where I'm sitting, in
sure
terms
is.
of what hockey's going to look like, whether it's coming from your traditional way, the television, or live streaming. But pretty exciting times for NHL fans south of the border. Okay,
Now,
Mac.
And exciting for all the unemployed. Everybody's applying. So the analysts for teams, the analysts here, the analysts there. I mean, just the people at Rogers that'll let go. They'd be packed in on interviews just with that group.
I'm gonna be your agent. I'm calling them right now, and I'm gonna get them on both at the same time, Turner and ESPN, and I'm just gonna say, Doug Maclean, who wants him?
Yeah.
Crickets.
I hope I don't get the silence that I just got 2 seconds ago.
Because he doesn't want them. So who wants him?
Can we get a prediction from you guys for TNT? That's what I'm the most focused on right now. I think TNT has the most upside to really change the way people watch hockey in the United States. I mean, TNT's basketball product is just so much better than anyone else. Period.
They are fun though, but
yeah.
the personalities are fun, and it's led, of course, by Shaq and Barkley. They're just fun guys to be around. So I don't know if you ever saw it, Jordan, but I taught Charles Barkley how to take a wrist shot on Hockey Night in Canada. Did you ever find that on the internet?
I haven't. I'll have to take a look at that. If it's anything like his golf swing, I'm sure it went great.
Well, that's the first thing I said. I said, we got to end this segment right now if your wrist shot's going to look anything like your golf swing. So he had a good chuckle at that, but it was fantastic. It was me. Our host at the time was George Strombolopoulos, and he's just a breath of fresh air, man. He'll tell you what he's thinking. He's got a wonderful sense of humor. And at the time, I don't know if you remember this, but he was just bored out of his mind with his NBA playoffs. And I think he even said on air, man, I'm more into the NHL hockey right now than I am watching my own sport. And he had come up to Toronto to catch a game or two at the Air Canada. I think the Raptors were still involved, of course, but he was all over the hockey at the time. And yeah, I think Turner and TNT they're going to do a great job. They understand the element of entertainment, informative, engaging personalities. That's where it still is at, Mac, and that's why I have you. I mean, it's not informative out of you. It's entertaining.
Well, I'll tell you what. watching the games right now, watching the hockey productions now on Canadian TV and on US TV, the fun factor is not very high. So if TNT change it and want to have some fun, that would be great. That would be great.
I will defend it a little bit in Canadian television, Mac, and for no other reason that the stress value has been there in the last couple of years, Mac, that we never saw.
Oh yeah.
In a large portion of the television that I've done up here. And unfortunately, sometimes it shows.
Yeah, it sure does. But anyway, that's fine. I don't blame them. And it's like, don't laugh too hard, whatever you do. Be serious. It's such a serious game.
What's that old saying is, if your face cracks smiling, don't worry, I'll pay for the stitches. That's what.
Yeah. So anyway,
my good friend Peter Zezel used to always tell that to people that didn't appear to be having a very good time. Don't worry, if your face cracks smiling, I'll pay for the stitches. All right, Mac, let's move it along here. Enough about TV, money, which is a favorite conversation to you no matter what.
Mm-hmm.
But let's go into some awards, because we do know nothing's really going to change from here on in. I don't think anyone's going to win a Norris or lose one in the last 6 games of the season. So let's start there. The thumbnail is best D-man, question mark out there. And the one thing that you always got to make it every year abundantly clear is that we are talking about an award that reflects in someone that is having what is deemed the best season. This isn't a conversation that says, if I had a game 7 and I needed one great defenseman, who would I pick? That's not what this is all about. That's not what this award is all about. So in saying that, Mac, I don't have it that easy that we're just handing this award to Victor Hedman.
Well, you know what? I think something that's unique this year is we've got some young defensemen that have come along. Victor Hedman, to me, is still the guy. He's still the best defenseman, but there's some young guys that will be interesting to see if they can get in to the mix.
Okay, but when you say that, Mac, I have more faith that it's coming from a place of security. It's coming from a place of his reputation that went completely to another level last year in the bubble, and we saw that with the leading Tampa Bay to the Stanley Cup and his Conn Smythe season. And it's absolutely true. You know, there's not too many of us that wouldn't take Victor Hedman as the best defenseman on the planet right now. But when it comes to a Norris Trophy season, I'm not sure he's had that one that is just head and shoulders above everybody else.
No, I would say you're right. And I think that, look, I mean, I watched him play the other night against Columbus. You know, he scores the overtime winner with a blast from the high slot. He's playing 24 to 28 minutes every night. I mean, they really they've got 5 real good defensemen on Tampa, and you throw Shen in or Young Foot as the extra guy there. They've really got a good 5, but he's still up there into the high 20s a lot of nights. He creates offense. He's an integral part of their offensive game. He's 6 foot whatever.
Well,
I mean, so
you know,
reputation or not, he's still he's had a season that should be in the Norris Trophy consideration for sure for me. He's one of the 3 or whatever they put in there.
When we think about what we want out of a defenseman, and you know, you might be the perfect guy to ask this because you've seen the evolution of this position in the last 20, 30 years, Mac. And what you deem now is your best or prototypical defenseman that you would love in the game today, it would be the 6'4" guy. It would be the guy that could get up and down the ice and have a real physical element. But it has evolved. It really has. And although, you know, we'd still love that big, mean, bruising guy like a Chris Pronger, it's not a necessity anymore for being everything that you need out of this position, especially now. How have you seen it evolve over the years?
Well, you know, obviously everybody that's been around the game thinks back to Bobby Orr and how he changed the game. But the guy, for me, there was all kinds of guys. It was Dennis Potvin, there was Larry Robinson. But the guy that really stands out to me that I spent 5 years with was Nick Lidstrom. I was in Detroit his first year. He came to Detroit. If I'm not mistaken, he was probably around 21 at the time when he came over from Sweden. And I remember being on the ice with him in his first practice. And Brian Murray and I sitting there saying, oh, my God, how good is this guy? How good is this guy? I told you what – I've told this story a few times, but I get a call at 1 – Brian is over scouting in Europe. The Red Wings had already drafted Nick Lidstrom in the 3rd round, I believe. Brian's over scouting in Sweden, and he phones me at 1 o'clock in the morning. And he said, you are not going to believe the player I just saw that we own, that we're having come over next year to play for us. And he said, his name's Nick Lidstrom. And Doug, he's better than Al McGinnis. And I said, Brian, go have another beer, because it's obviously you've had a bunch. Go have another beer, and we'll talk about it tomorrow, because obviously you're shit-faced if you're telling me this guy's going to be better than Al McGinnis. Well, Brian was pretty accurate. He was as good as Al McGinnis, but he might have been a lot better than Al McGinnis. And Al McGinnis was a hell of a defenseman. So Nick comes over. We're on the ice the first practice. This guy was unbelievable in his first practice, unbelievable in his first game. And I don't remember in all his time in the NHL, this guy having a bad game. And what I loved about him is he put up points in the regular season. He was a huge part of the Detroit Red Wings offense, plus defensively. But he also did it in playoffs. He put up big numbers in the playoffs and was a critical offensive threat at playoff time. That's what I love to see from a defenseman. A guy that does it in the regular season, but that is an offensive threat when it really counts, and that's at playoff time.
4 Stanley Cups, the big one, 7 Norris Trophy wins, including one
amazing
that he accepted on his 41st birthday. And I think the first one didn't come till maybe 27, Mac, if I'm not mistaken.
Maybe, yeah.
Which is an incredible, incredible run here. But this guy was the furthest thing from a bruiser, Mac. It's just but you don't have to body check if you have the puck or control the play.
They had to put the rule in because he used to sort of stand, guys would come in one-on-one and then when they didn't have the puck, he'd still stay with them and sort of guide them out of the play. And then they came with the rule that it was like the Nick Lidstrom rule for one-on-ones, where you couldn't totally block the lane. But Nick was, oh man, he was special. And I never forget when he retired, he went back and he was coaching the Bantam team in Sweden. And somebody said, well, they got to get him back to Detroit. And they said, no, he's coaching a Bantam team. I said, well, maybe what they should do is send Babcock over to coach his Bantam team and Nick come back and play for the Red Wings. And I think it would work out okay for the Bantam team. And it would be better for the Red Wings if Babcock went over and coached the Bantam team and Nick come back and played another year. Kenny couldn't pull that off.
What a run. What a run for Lidstrom. The Detroit Red Wings. I don't know if we'll ever see anything like it again, but then you start watching some of the kids today, Mac, and Adam Fox is one that stands out. It's a name that we've probably heard legitimately creep into the Norris Trophy discussion within 6-7 weeks, but the numbers are phenomenal, much like a Lidstrom.
Yep.
The furthest thing from being any type of physical threat out there. And I'm watching this guy, Mac, and you'd be hard-pressed off the ice to think that this guy was a professional hockey player, let alone turning himself into a top defenseman.
Now, the last guy that won the Norris in his second year in the NHL, which Fox is in his second year, the last guy to win the Norris in his second season was a pretty good defenseman. He wore number 4.
Yeah, that's it. Just Bobby.
Bobby Orr won it in his second season.
Yeah. Well, Bobby
So-
went on to consecutive, what was it, 8? I lost count, 7 or 8 consecutive Norrises.
Right. So, but you know what? You're saying Fox, and I agree. He's been a special talent. There was lots of talk when he was coming in the league. I think it was Calgary, Carolina, and then he ended up in New York with different moves.
I think the Rangers paid 2 second-round picks for the rights to Adam Fox out of Carolina.
Right. So Adam Fox definitely has changed the look of the back end for the New York Rangers, without a doubt. He and the players, you continually see quotes about the players are just blown away by his skill level. And, but so you throw his name in, and I'm thinking, okay, what other young guys are ready to move into the Norris conversation? And really, you say, okay, Fox is one. Makar in Colorado is a guy that
Makar's a point a game guy, but I think he's barely played, 30 plus games. He's missed too much, Mac, I think, to put himself in a serious contention here.
But he's moving into that category.
Oh, I think a healthy year would have had Makar right up there.
Yeah. And I'll tell you another guy that I love what he's bringing to the table is McAvoy in Boston. And he's been around a little longer, but you look at McAvoy, he's in the high 20s. He's, they lose Chara and Krug on the back end, and McAvoy has carried that back end all year. I think he's a plus 16 with a team that has a tough time scoring. McAvoy has become one hell of a young defenseman in the NHL. And
he made it.
Mentioned Yossi. We haven't mentioned Carl.
Yeah, hold on though. I mean, let me get my thoughts in. Let me get my thoughts on the kids here. And I'm with you on Charlie McAvoy. The assist to start it off last night off the Krejci play up the middle of the ice, Mac, where I think he caught Matheson flat-footed off of what maybe he thought would be a dump in, and then a nice 6-8 foot pass to Krejci that gains the blue line and scores a pretty good goal. I'm not sure a lot of guys have that type of poise, but Fox is certainly one of them. The one thing I think for McAvoy to get himself in a position in the next few years is he's still got to take his offensive game, I think, to another level here. And to be fair to McAvoy, Mac, when they lost Krug, it wasn't necessarily that void, especially on the power play, was not filled by McAvoy. It was Grzelcyk. It was more tailored towards Grzelcyk.
Yeah.
So, as soon as he kind of evolves a little bit more, maybe even on the power play, because we know what the power play means to guys like Adam Fox and Hedman. Take a look at a lot of his helpers are off the power play too. Then McAvoy will get himself in. But the one thing I like about McAvoy that a guy like Fox doesn't have is that edge, Mac. This guy, he gets his nose dirty, and the hit on Josh Anderson, I think, in the playoffs a couple of years ago, that was questionable.
Yeah.
That's a nice element to have.
No, for sure. And he's a skater. The other thing too is, I know he plays the power play with the big boys, with Bergeron and Pasternak and Marchand, but they use so many low plays. Their power play is really a low play power play, a way they move it from the below the line to the slot area, side to side. I mean, does it help him point wise? Well, it's helping being out there with them, but it's a really unbelievable low play power play that they use, and it's been so good. But so there is some kids. Quinn Hughes is another guy that's going to be in the Norris conversation as we move ahead. Another kid that is only in his second year pro, I believe it's second year, right?
Yeah.
I mean, where does he? I mean, there's going to be a half a dozen young defensemen that we're going to see really move quickly into Norris conversation because they bring it. They're solid defensively. and they bring it offensively.
Two other ones that kind of stand out for me too, honorable mention, and will garner votes, Mac. And again, when you hear someone is fourth or fifth in voting for the Norris, that's a hell of a compliment to feel like there's only 3 or 4 guys ahead of you for this prestigious award. So it is a wonderful award, but a couple of names: Darnell Nurse, Mac, and Jacob Chikrin at 16 goals. That Jacob Chikrin is having Norris Trophy talk in his game. Yeah. When you're scoring 16 goals in any season, let alone one that has been shortened.
With just an amazing shot. And so you got those guys. Then another guy that we haven't mentioned yet, that's a young kid who's been in a tough situation in Buffalo, is Dahlin. I mean, he came off, didn't he have a 60-point season here a year or so ago? And all of a sudden this year, he's really had a
disaster.
It's been a disaster for him. But I mean,
last night he looked good though, Mac, and he's looked since the change. Granado is in, but I'll tell you who should get a lot of credit right now is Girardi. They moved Dan Girardi behind the bench, and from what I'm hearing, has had a huge impact on this kid.
And this kid should be a superstar in the league. And all of a sudden, people talk Buffalo and they're that bad, but you've got Eichel, a franchise player up front, if they can get that figured out, Eichel and the Sabres, and this guy coming on the back end. So, you know what? Those are 2 franchise guys that you build teams around. So that's what you love about Quinn and Makar and McAvoy and Fox. I mean, these guys are so hard to find if a franchise has them, and then you've got that centerman to go with it up front. Man, it can change in a hurry.
As a general manager and a guy that has to watch a salary cap and pinch pennies where he can, do you quietly cheer against these guys in the voting, Mac? Because voting can cost you money. It could speed up the process on the ask. And you had mentioned Fox in his second year, but he's a Norris Trophy win or a runner-up scenario would significantly change what his second contract could look like. Cale Makar, who's missed a lot of games here, has, for all intent and purposes, taken himself out of the running for Norris. But it's gonna get really expensive for these 23-year-olds looking for a contract or even a bridge one, Mac. It's expensive.
It is. It's going to be, but they're that important to their teams that, get them locked up as best you can and for as long as you can. Bridge deals, yes, but if you can ever get them locked up, it can change the look of your franchise. So if you have them, and we've just named a half a dozen young guys, it will be real interesting to see the impact that these young guys in their young 20s to mid 20s, how it can change the look of your franchise. We always talk Toronto Maple Leafs, Morgan Riley, but they don't have, and I love Morgan Riley, but he's not a number 1 guy for me. And he's a great number 2. But the question is he a franchise guy like we think these young guys will be?
Well, not to go heavy on Morgan Riley and the Leafs.
No, but, I don't mean to.
When we talk about guys that can get the job done everywhere, there has to be a dynamic element to their game. And, I'll go back to Charlie McAvoy. Okay. And I like him, but he's still, for me, a little bit of a poor man's Cale Makar because he does not have that dynamic element that Cale Makar has. And I think Cale Makar would have been a a front runner, and I think this guy's poised to win a lot of Norrises if he can stay healthy and the team remain competitive. But Cale Makar is the guy that I think has it all here.
Yeah, I agree. I mean, he's made some moves, and we've seen him in the Colorado games, but we've seen some highlights of moves that he's made, stutter steps at the blue line, the shot. I mean, everything is going for this guy. Quinn Hughes has that dynamic too, that offensive dynamic. And can he get better defensively? I think he's working towards that. So that will be a great thing to watch for the Canucks future, because Calgary don't have one. Edmonton have Nurse. I mean, Montreal, they don't have a dynamic guy like that on the back end that I see. And I don't know that they have one coming. So if you have one, you're a lucky franchise.
What would you do if you're Joe Sakic in Colorado? Would you tie up Cale Makar on hopefully an 8-year deal and go all in on the number? Or would you try to bridge that?
I mean, I think if you can get him on an 8-year deal, I think you go all in on that. I mean, just look at the Seth Jones and these guys that have an opportunity to play out and be unrestricted free agents. I don't think you want to go there. I think you want to, and because they have McKinnon on such a sweetheart deal and their top end guys are in good position cap wise, I think they should go all in on their number one defenseman. All in.
Give me a number.
It's gonna be a minimum of 7, and that may not do it.
7. 7 what? 7 little Buddhas?
I mean, come on, 7's a pretty good number, but I mean, it's probably.
Are you nuts?
9. It'll probably be closer to 9.
Oh my God! If they can get it to 10 for Cale Makar on an 8-year deal, that's a home run for Colorado.
Well, that's a home run for Colorado in your opinion, but it wouldn't be in Joe Sakic and Chris McFarland's opinion, would it? Would he? They want to get him at 10 million, 80 million.
That's the number for 8.
Has he? Yeah.
Okay. 8. Okay. Hold on. Okay. I know we're on the topic of defensemen, but there was a guy with the New York Islanders who's considered a franchise player.
Yeah.
They couldn't get a long-term deal, and they bridged him at $7 million times 3. So where is that number?
Who was that? Who was the 7? Who was the Islanders?
Barzal.
Oh yeah,
Barzal bridged at $7 million. Yeah. So if Makar's going to bridge, that number for me is 7.5.
I was going to say, has he done that more than Barzal has? I mean, is that not a great comparable? I know it's a different position. So why do you say he deserves more than Barzal? And I said that, didn't I say 7?
Yeah, but you said 7 on a long-term deal.
Why does he? Yeah, that's true.
You said 7 times 8. I'm like, 7 times 3.
You're right. It's not. Yeah.
Okay. So to go 8, you got to go from 7 to 10.
Yeah.
10 and a half. 11.
Right. See, that's why you should be on TNT and I should retire.
Okay. All right. So I'm teaching you a few tricks here on negotiations.
Yeah, you're teaching, as all GMs who would be listening today, they said, there goes Kypreos promoting the players, trying to get them more money. That's what he does. That's his gig. That's what he does.
My gig is to look at the market and read the tea leaves. That's all it is.
I must admit, you have been high on a lot of your on your opinions of where guys should end up. You've always been a little high in your evaluations.
Yes.
Am I wrong on that?
No.
No, I've been right on that. You've been a little high.
Shoot for this
on a bridge deal. I mean, maybe they want. I don't think they want to see more from Makar. And I don't think they need to see a lot more in Quinn Hughes. What's Quinn Hughes going to get? If Makar is going to get 10, what's Quinn Hughes going to get? He's up right now too.
Him and Pettersson are need contracts at the same. I hear Quinn wants security, so he's willing to go as high as 6 years.
Yeah.
And Pettersson wants a shorter term deal. So I don't know what Vancouver feels like. They want to lock both of them in at the same time or not. But I think Quinn's leaning more to wanting a long-term deal, which means that Quinn could end up on an AAV, a couple million higher than Pettersson.
Well, there's some interesting discussions for GMs this summer with respect to potential franchise defensemen. What do Buffalo do with Dahlin? That's a big, big question. Big question. So these teams have got
the norm is the bridge contracts, though, Mac.
In the game, what?
Yeah, the norm now is the bridge contracts. I think the players are weary of the economics today, and if they can get a number that they can live with and get revenues back up to where they were trending a few years ago, then they'd be happy to take another crack at it.
Yep.
All right, Jordan.
These type of players have so much confidence in their ability that they're not afraid of that.
Yeah, let's hope we can get Jordan to maybe put up the odds a little bit on what we feel is the bettors out there. I think we've got a list. I think
it's been on. We've had it on screen for most of the show as we've been going back and forth.
Okay, so Hedman obviously is the guy that's leading the way.
Yeah, he's at -150 at FanDuel right now. These odds are of April 8th for this award. Basically, what happens is with these sort of futures bets, it just depends. Sometimes the book will put them up for a day. They'll get hammered with bets, and then they just take them off. So currently, the books that I use aren't listing any odds, so they're not currently up to date. But as I look at things here, Kip, what happens if, and obviously we're not hoping for this, but if we're trying to make a bet here at Fox at +340, Hedman at -150, what does Hedman have to do to lose this award? Would an injury to Hedman in his next game knock him out of the running?
No.
Some stats show that it's essential. This is from sportsbettingdime.com. It's essential that a defenseman not miss any time to injury. In the last 10 years, the most games missed by a Norris Trophy winner was 6, when PK Subban sat out the first games of the 2012-2013 season in a contract holdout. So some people might say that games do really play a factor here. So I don't know. What are your thoughts on that, guys?
Well, I touched on it a little bit with Makar. And there's just no way he can get into it missing that many games.
Yeah.
But that's a really good question, Jordan, and an interesting way to look at things. And, I watched Tampa Bay, Mac, and, since they get in Savard, they haven't looked great.
No,
it could be the experience. It could be the experience of sitting there going, why do we want to blow our brains out the last 2-3 weeks here? It doesn't really matter to us. Let's just get geared up. Let's get ready. We'll get Kucherov back in the lineup, and then we'll put our foot on the pedal here. But I look at Adam Fox now, and we watch the Rangers push Boston with a huge 3-1 win last night that calls off the Dogs a little bit, the New York Ranger Dogs, but Fox still has a lot to gain. Do you think Fox can't win this if they don't make the playoffs? Or
I don't have them winning it without being in the playoffs. I don't. And I mean, we've talked all these names here. We haven't even mentioned Roman Josi.
Yeah, but listen, we wrote off Nashville for half the season. Okay, and we weren't talking Josi for half a season. I give Yossi's one of the best defensemen in the league. Yeah, but you can't win this in half a season where we're starting to talk about you and your hockey team.
Okay, what about a team that may be the best team in the NHL right now? Maybe in the Washington Capitals. And you got Carlson on the back end.
You got Carlson.
And this guy logs huge minutes and puts up numbers.
There are Carolina Hurricane fans that are saying the same thing, saying, no, the best team's Carolina with Hamilton, not with Carlson.
Well, they're in a different division. They're both first, top
teams, Mac. They're both top teams with top defensemen.
Right. And I mean, those two teams right there could roll through the playoffs.
Yeah.
If they keep playing the way they're playing.
Yeah.
If they keep playing the way they're playing. And then Carlson's one of the best defensemen. Hedman's one of the best defensemen. Hamilton's one of the best defensemen. And the kids will just settle in below them until they get the job done at playoff time.
They're all.
I think it's important. I think you've got to become a Norris Trophy winner. Maybe I'm out in left field on this. I still think you've got to be able to get it done at playoff time to move into that category.
Yeah. Listen, I think there's a lot of that off the top of my head that have had good seasons, Mac. Uyghur in Florida.
Yeah.
Pulak and Pelech. Nice jobs in the Islanders.
Nurse.
They're not.
You mentioned Nurse.
They're not going to win the award, but they have had good seasons, very good seasons.
I mean,
Yossi won it last year, but this year I don't see Yossi in the mix right now, based on the comeback by Nashville. Put it that way.
We thought we're sitting last year watching the playoffs, and we're saying Heiskanen's going to be a perennial Norris Trophy finalist.
I look at his season coming off of what we witnessed in the bubble, and it is disappointing that that they've struggled and he struggled, and we never envisioned that. I didn't see Dallas falling off that, and they're still in the mix, Mac. They're still there.
Show the importance, and I was thinking of this morning when I was, thinking about defensemen and the Hart. We're not getting to the Hart, but think about Edmonton right now with the way McDavid is terrorizing it, and with the way Nurse is playing and the way Smith is playing. All of a sudden, I don't know if I want to play the Edmonton Oilers in the playoffs right now. I'll tell you that, because you've got a franchise defenseman playing unbelievably well. And you've got an unbelievable superstar up front. And I haven't even mentioned Draisaitl and Nugent Hopkins. So it's the dynamic these defensemen bring to a team can change your fortune real fast.
We went pretty heavy on the D today, Mac.
I know. I like it.
Wow.
So maybe we'll – what's that?
Well, never mind. We'll let the people in chat make some jokes about it overall. But yeah, we did talk about one award for the whole show. What do you think we want to do for the next one? How do we want to fit one in?
I think we want to get into the Hart, but maybe we'll do that Friday. What do you think? Because it is a worthy conversation. I don't think we'll do it justice in the next 5 or 10 minutes.
Maybe.
But why don't we save a couple for Friday?
Okay.
Including the Hart, and we'll pick. We can go Vezina. We can. We won't go Lady Bing.
We could go Vezina. No. I got Vezina on screen for everybody now. We have Vasilevsky leading the race at minus 170 with Marc-Andre Fleury, second place, plus 200.
Wow. Yeah.
I'm a huge Marc-Andre Fleury fan.
Oh. Well, you sure are. Like, you've made that. He's been on this show more than I have been, the way you've talked about him for the last year. You've talked more Fleury than you have mentioned my name on this show. So yeah, you're a big fan. There's no doubt.
I don't know whether or not he likes pickleball.
Everybody likes pickleball. It's taking over.
I don't think he wears black socks and sandals to the rink like you do to the beach. I mean, I've never spoken in that capacity.
By the way, I've got the Cabot Cliffs hat on today, what's that mean? Cabot Cliffs hat. If you wear a Cabot Cliffs hat, what does that mean, Nick?
You get free golf if you go back there.
No, it means that I broke 90 again this morning.
Oh, yeah.
The only time I wear the Cabot Cliffs hat is if I broke 90.
89 today? What, 88?
89, 45.
89. 40. You might as well say 90 if you've shot an 89.
46, 43. I had a 6 on the last hole to get my a bogey on my last hole to get my 89. But anyway, no, the people don't want to hear about my golf game. I get that. I know it. So don't send me any stuff because you're probably muted anyway.
Vezina, we know what Connor Hellebuck has meant to Winnipeg, Mac, but it has been what a turn of events there since the Leafs left. And we're talking about a Vezina Trophy winner and Hellebuck getting pulled. We're talking about a benching of their franchise player, the face of their team, and Scheifele. Like, what is going on?
Is Wheeler healthy?
Wheeler's health is questionable. Ehlers, they lost for the remainder of the season. Who knows what kind of shape he's going to be back for game 1 in the playoffs, Mac. What the heck happened? You blink and Winnipeg is leaking oil everywhere.
Like it's a bad time. And I mean, the benching was to send a strong message that we got to right the ship here.
Which we were okay with at the time. We really didn't think that it was anything more than just a quick message going into an Oiler game where you thought you would win or at least compete.
We know benchings really help. Look at how the benchings in Columbus have turned Line around. He can't hardly score a goal now because he's been benched. He was even benched last night in the third period for a period of time. Never got on the ice in 3-on-3, and then he scores the shootout winner.
So what are you saying now to Tortorella and Maurice? Don't mess with your players?
I'm saying you're wasting your time benching your stars. Like, seriously, you're wasting your time benching your stars.
So what was
is what's his name in Toronto going to bench Matthews? Oh my good God! They lose a couple of games. Is he going to bench Matthews? No. Is he going to bench Marner? No.
So what was your biggest time? Did you ever bench your son Nash in Columbus? Give me some scenarios where you had some issues on ice time.
I'll tell you what though, he was making $15,000 a goal in his Rocket Richard year, and I'm coaching, and every time a 5-on-3 came up, every time I put him out, he'd score, and it would be $15,000. I could just see it ringing up in my budget. 15,000, 15,000, 15,000. And a couple of people mentioned maybe you shouldn't put him out on the 5-on-3s because he's getting 15 goddamn thousand a goal. And I said, no, I'm going to put him out on the 5-on-3. Sorry.
But did you ever bench anybody to the point where it got heated or ugly?
No, I don't remember. I used to bench.
Were you tempted?
I used to bench like Jody Hull. Some of those guys that wouldn't yell at me.
Guys like us are easy to bench.
Yeah, I used to bench guys like you and Jody and those guys, and they didn't get mad. They got mad at me, but they didn't yell at me.
I think Brian in Washington every once in a while like to mess with some Cookie Monster minutes.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, I think he sat Dino a few times.
I don't remember him ever benching Mike Gardner.
No.
I've told this story so many times that fans are sick of it, but you know the Herbie Ragland story.
I don't know. No, remind me.
Well, 2nd round pick of the Blues, and I remember Herb. I'm in the press box as assistant coach, and after the first period, Ron Caron, the GM, come over to me and he said, "You tell Jacques Martin when you go down between periods that if Herb Ragland plays one more shift tonight, you and Jacques are getting fired after the game." So I go down between periods and I say, "Jacques," and he said, "Any thoughts?" And I said, "Yeah, Herbie's really struggling. And he said, I think he's playing pretty good," Jacques said. And I'm thinking, oh my God, because I didn't want to tell him we're getting fired if he played him another shift. And then I was just getting ready to go back up to the press box and I said, "Jacques, if you never do me another favor again the rest of our careers, don't put Herbie on the ice again tonight, please." And my armpits were wet for 2 periods thinking he was coming over the boards. And he didn't play him again.
He didn't.
He didn't get fired.
Did that come up in beers after the game? What the hell was that comment all about?
I don't think Jock's ever mentioned it again.
Well, maybe Jock's just too smart. Then he
Jock
figured it out.
He did, sure did. And
He did.
And Herbie heard me tell this story because he lives in Peterborough, I think now, and he heard me tell this story a couple of years ago, and it felt good for Herbie to get, get his name out there again. Herbie was a great kid, man. He was a great kid.
Yeah, and tough too, wasn't he? He
was tough.
Was a big, strong kid.
But you know what? You got to be careful. Like the GM came in one time and he gave the test to all the players. He said, these guys don't know where we are in the standings either. They're not paying attention, Jock. So he gave them a test before practice one day to fill out where we were in the standings and how many points we had to the players in the dressing room. I thought, oh my God, this is going to be bad. We get the test back. Herbie had the points close, but he missed the date by a month. It was March and he had February. I said, Christ, Herbie, you got to get at least the right date on the damn thing. Missed the date by a month. No focus. No focus, Ron.
Just like leave us on the ice, man. Don't confuse us off the ice.
Anyway, that's it for the storytelling today. It's 1:00.
Okay, that's good. Any comments? You watched the Bruins last night. Were you a good win for the Bruins? Taylor Hall with a pretty good goal against a pretty good player, Crosby.
Our good friend Joe Lama was sent out a tweet the other day. Good to see Hall scoring in bunches in Boston because he hadn't scored in probably 10 days. So it was good to see him connect last night. That was a big goal. They need him to score. But look, hey, that was a pressure game for the Bruins last night. The Rangers nipping at their heels, and that was a pressure game. A great performance all the way around, I thought, by the Bruins in against Pittsburgh, who were playing very, very well.
You mentioned Washington as a top team. I thought that was pretty impressive. No Ovechkin, finding a way to beat the Islanders at their own game.
A lot of people, hockey guys are telling me Washington may be the best team in the NHL right now, the way they're playing. Not sure about that, but they're again, the question is goaltending, but they're playing. Laviolette's got them hitting on all cylinders.
They haven't 5 games. They haven't lost a game that Ovi has not been in the lineup.
Amazing.
They can win.
Yeah.
Braun comes in, scores a couple of big goals, and they're able to shut the door down. 7 games on tap tonight, Mac, and we'll leave you with this one. Avs and Vegas. And Avs are still limping in. Rantanen's out. Grubauer still. These guys, due to COVID protocol, will not be available, I think, till the end of the week. But are we gonna read into this game tonight?
Yeah, this is a read-in game this late in the season when you want to put on you want to play well if you're Colorado against a Vegas team that are hitting it. They're hitting it. They're going to be, them, Colorado. I mean, something's going to give with one of these two teams at playoff time. So you want to be hitting on all cylinders if you're Colorado tonight. This is a great test.
Okay, we'll keep an eye on that one. We'll let you go. What do you got on tap the rest of the you got your golf round in today?
Well,
so
here's what I've got to do. I've got to go out this afternoon and get some fish so we can for dinner. So I go to a seafood fish store, and I got to go back to the golf course because I gave the guy $4 when he cleaned my clubs, and he didn't put the head cover on my 5-wood. So I got to go back and get my head cover after giving the guy $4. And he doesn't put the head cover on.
Okay, head covers are like golf balls. You're just renting them until you lose them. Okay?
That really ticked me off.
You're going to go into a box, and there's going to be 100,000 head covers.
As long as my red Callaway is there, I'll be happy.
You're the only one that's looking for it.
I'll be grabbing whatever's there that fits.
Just go to the golf shop and buy a new one. All right.
Oh,
All right.
I didn't think you could get them.
This is why I think you lost your focus a little bit on our show today. You were worried about your golf cover.
I know. Anyway.
Okay, Mac. Hey,
Okay,
great
guys.
job today. Great job today. Great insight today on the Norris. We'll see how that shapes up. You've got Hedman. I think Fox can win this thing, and I'm not sure if the Rangers have to get in the playoffs or not. We'll see. It'll remain to be seen, but I think Fox has shown enough that he's going to warrant a lot of votes here. But we'll
more than Hamilton and Hedman, you're dreaming.
Okay. Well, we'll see where the voting goes.
I love Fox. Hey, Foxy looks pretty good.
Foxy looks good.
Foxy skill.
Okay, Friday, Mac, we'll tee up on the Hart, and we'll talk about while everybody's talking about McDavid for good reason, Marchand and what he's meant to the Boston Bruins, and we're going to get into that Friday.
Wow.
He has been unbelievable.
Unbelievable.
And, we'll have a strong conversation on Marchand and the evolution of this guy's game and how
Nova Scotia, Marchand, Crosby, McKinnon. Wow. Out of Halifax, Metro, Dartmouth, Cole Harbor. Wow.
All right. Don't worry, you'll get plenty of time on Friday to bump up tourism. Doug Maclean, everybody out of Florida. All right, for Joe and Jordan, I want to thank everybody for this Wednesday fun show today, and we'll carry it on Friday when it comes to the awards. Everybody remain safe, enjoy the games tonight, and we'll see you soon here on the Real Kyper at Noon Show.